Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay. So ignore the Democrats saying, well, I don't know what they're going to try to make of all this. They did it yesterday. And listen, I don't blame them. Politically, they got to score some points here. But it's no more. It's 1 3-point shot, okay, to use Mark Madden's. It's not a flurry of Steph Curry. You see what I did there?
Yeah, that's
you like that rhyme?
It's
That's
brilliant.
That was a rhyme.
You're on a roll.
I didn't even
You're on a roll.
Yes, I am. And anyway, all right. Is there any more to this story, Fred?
No, you can read about it at afn.net, afn.net.
May I also say something else?
Last one on this.
This is my opinion. This is my opinion. This is my opinion, and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the other 3 people in here. Okay.
The other 3 laymen.
There are times when President Trump and his approach and his, in this case, some of his cabinet members, his approach to attack people is beneficial and serves his goals and so forth. Personally attacking people. Okay, and then there are times you don't need to do that. Okay? What they did with this reporter, he's more than a reporter, he's an editor.
Editor-in-chief.
Of the Atlantic magazine/website. Is that they immediately attacked this guy and called him all kind of names. We're talking about Trump and the rest of them. And then Pete Hegseth, who I love, says it's a hoax. Well, it wasn't a hoax. It was the fault of somebody in the administration for adding this guy who, he didn't ask for this.
Right.
He didn't try to sneak into a private conversation. He got accidentally added, and then all of a sudden they're calling him names. You see what I'm saying? This is my opinion again. So I think in this case they'd have done better to not attack the fella because it ticked him off, and now he's releasing this other stuff.
That's what I'm reading here. That's the reason I'm asking.
He's mad because they've attacked him. Now he's a lefty. Don't get me wrong, but it would have been when Hegseth is out calling it a hoax when it clearly is not. Then it makes they're trying to make this guy look bad just simply because he was on an unknowing recipient of a text.
Now,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I would say this, though. I think the appropriate thing for Jeffrey Goldberg to have done would have been to text. I'm not even sure if you call it texting. I guess on chatting or texting, whatever, on Signal, is to say, guys, I don't think you meant to include me.
I agree with that.
Yes.
I think that's what he should.
Well, if he didn't do that, then maybe he deserves the name call, some of the name calling that he's getting. So I do make a caveat for that.
But I agree. I think in a case like that, you own it. You don't blame him. You do say, listen, he should have just kept it quiet. No American should take advantage of a mistake like this.
Talk about national security.
Talk about national security. But I do think that the Trump administration could have taken in public a different tack in attacking him, because it was the Trump administration's fault.
Right.
So, and he does have, I will say this one other thing. I'm not defending this Jeffrey Goldberg, is that he is in charge. He is a reporter in the sense that his job is to collect information. And you have to ask the question, what about those other individuals that have leaked entire reams of documents? The guys who are, who've been in hiding, and, I can't think of the names of the 2 guys that released all those documents 10 years ago.
Talking about Snowden?
Yeah, Snowden and the other guy's name, but that's just because.
You mean the guy who was held up in the
embassy?
What was his name?
I remember Snowden because he went to Russia.
Snowden, yeah, but there was what was the other guy's name?
Well, I'll come around and find it for our listeners. They're yelling it at us, telling us. But all of us said, well, we had a right to know. Did we have a right to know? This is a gray area. I put Jeffrey Goldberg in that kind of no-win situation. I think he should have handled it differently and said, guys, I was included by mistake. But at the same time, his job is to get information. And if it comes to him and drops in his lap, okay, then what do you do with it?
Yeah.
So,
All right, let's move on.
All right, back almost 2 months ago, we had a conversation on this program with President
Assange.
Trump's.
It's Assange. That's the guy.
Yes,
Snowden
Assange. Yeah.
Assange.
Okay.
Yeah. Did he ever get any sunshine?
Julian
Poor
Assange
fella.
and Edward
Huh?
Snowden.
He's going to get scurvy or something. He didn't get some sunshine.
Get some sunshine, vitamin D. He needs.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, back a couple months ago, we had a conversation with President Trump's nominee to be our next ambassador to Israel, and that is the former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee. Well, we've been kind of wondering, how come he hasn't gone before a Senate panel for his approval? Well, that happened yesterday, and Mike Huckabee faced some interesting questions. Now, for the most part, very friendly questions from the Republicans on the panel, but from the Democrats, and let me just summarize, they say, the Democrats said, we support Israel, but, and there were a lot of kind of introduction of questions from Democrats along that line. One of them came from Democrat Nevada Senator Jackie Rosen. She certainly supports Israel, she says, but she questioned Mike Huckabee about his public statements that he does not think a two-state solution is the way to go. In other words, Palestinian state, Israel state existing side by side. So I want you to listen to Senator Rosen and then hear the response from soon-to-be Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Cut one.
Continue advocating for a future two-state solution, and if not, what is your alternative?
I think the question is not, is there a need for people who are Palestinian to be able to live and have a future? The question is where and when. Senator, Israel is a tiny little strip of land. You know that. We all do. It's the size of New Jersey. But Muslim countries control 644 times the amount of land that Israel has. They've been surrounded by those who have sought to destroy it, annihilate it. Those who chant from the river to the sea are not bringing about peace. The other thing that has to happen is a cultural shift. There can be no peace and two-state solution if there continues to be education from the time a child is 5 and 6 years old living under the Palestinian Authority that says it's okay, in fact it's desirable to murder Jews and to reward them for it.
All right, that is soon-to-be Ambassador Mike Huckabee to Israel.
Right? I mean, you can't say anything else. I mean, I can't disagree with that. You know, so good for him. Now, at what point will he be confirmed?
It should move out of committee in the next few days.
Okay, and there should be an issue there, should it? Even though it's taking longer than we like.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a partisan vote, probably 53-47 or whatever
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
You know, I was listening to Jenna Ellis's show this morning, and she had a guest on that was talking. Oh, go ahead,
Jack Hibbs.
Okay.
Yeah, he's with Chino Hills Chapel
In California.
California, yeah. And he is very outspoken politically and a big supporter of Israel. And you mentioned Jenna talked to him about this. Cut number 2.
Who's upset with President Trump's appointment of Mike Huckabee? You can know a lot about someone by who hates them. And so you look at the entire Democrat Party. This cannot happen in their worldview. Mike Huckabee loves Jesus too much, loves the Bible, and is concerned for Israel. The Council for American Islamic Relations. Huckabee cannot be confirmed. This is unacceptable because he loves Israel and he loves the Bible. Look at the Muslim Brotherhood. They're furious right now, Jenna, over the thought of Mike Huckabee being the ambassador to Israel. You go down that list, and you can know a lot about somebody by whose enemies they have surrounding them.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, it's a great point, and the fact is, one of the other things that Pastor Hibbs said when I was listening this morning was, the ambassador to Israel represents the U.S.
Right.
Okay, he's not Mike Huckabee's not in charge of Israel's policy in Gaza. He can tell what the United States encourages Benjamin Netanyahu to do, but you're sending someone to represent the United States to Israel.
Right.
And the fact that all these people hate Governor Huckabee because he's a Christian, an outspoken Christian, a Bible preaching pastor in earlier times in his life, and who loves Israel, it's very revealing that these people don't want someone like that as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. They apparently want someone that hates Israel sent there to represent U.S. views.
Yeah, Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, who's a good friend of ours and was on with us, 6 weeks ago or so. By the way, we have an invitation once he's confirmed to come back on our program. So he is the left would call him a Zionist,
Right.
which means
He would call himself a Christian Zionist.
Yeah, he's a pro-Israel.
Which makes him the perfect candidate for this job.
Yeah, he's reflective of the Trump administration.
Yeah.
I mean, he shares the views that President Trump has about Israel. So I think he'll be confirmed, and I think he'll do a great job as ambassador. And I know for him it's probably a dream job.
Yeah.
Because he loves Israel and the land of the Bible. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
You therefore must be perfect, as your Heavenly Father is perfect. Let me share with you a story that happened to me many, many years ago. My study was located in a storage room, or what was supposed to be a storage room, directly behind our home. It was a very small room to begin with, and once I put my books and supplies and machines in it, I could hardly turn around. It was really too small, but it was the best we could come up with at the moment, and I had to bear with it until better days came along. One day I was having one of those days when everything seemed to go wrong. You've had them, I know. We all have. It was a day when I wished, and most folks around me wished, that I'd stayed in bed. My desk was covered over with matters that needed my attention, correspondence was lagging, and there were other matters pressing. Well, I was sitting in my study, half mad at myself and half mad at my lack of space. Then, without knocking, in came my son, Timmy, and proceeded to sit down behind me. I started to turn and tell him there wasn't room for him in the study, but I waited, for I knew that if I spoke at that particular moment, I would be harsh with him. So I went about my work, listening as he began taking paper from the wastebasket and books from the shelf. He nearly lit a fuse when he spoke. "Daddy," he said, "do you have a pen?" Well, I reached into my pocket and gave him my pen. I then tried to continue my work, but it seemed that every time I turned around, I bumped into him. So, my temperature rising, I turned to scold him and send him back into the house, and upon turning, I was stopped cold by what I saw. Timmy had laid out before him some old papers he'd taken from the trash can, some of my books from the bookshelf, and with a pen in hand, he was marking on a sheet of paper. He'd made himself a makeshift desk that was in something of a mess. Now, most of the time when Timmy wanted to know what I was doing out in the study, I told him that I'm studying. I looked at him there. He paused for a moment and looked up, and after thinking for a few seconds, he began to write again. "What are you doing, son?" I asked him. He looked at me in the eye as only a son can do, and then gave me his answer with a little grin on his face. "I'm studying, Daddy." Well, I didn't say anything else to him. I turned back around and pretended to go back to work. But I didn't do much work for the next few minutes. I just sat there thinking about how proud I was of my son. It made me feel just as big as a man can get to know that my son wanted to be like me, to do what I do. Then a greater truth came to me. My Creator was telling me that this was really what he wanted from me. He wanted me to be like him. I still think about that often. How good he must feel when we act like him, do what he does, act like we are one of his children. Wouldn't it be a good world, I say to myself, if we wanted to be like him as much as Timmy wanted to be like his father? It sure would.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. 1 Peter 1:3.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Okay, I'm going to have to vent a little bit right
Man,
here.
brother.
I think you're in agreement with me, Ed, because we've talked about this topic before. Fred doesn't know what we're going to talk about. Wesley's not back yet. I don't know. He stepped out.
I think he's making a sandwich.
Well, yeah. Order a sandwich on Signal for carry out. All right, so faucets today.
I'm with you.
You know where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. In the good old days, we had a knob. Am I right?
Yes, or a handle.
Or a handle. Call it what you want to, but
Right.
you flipped it one way or another, for hot or cold, and on or off.
Yes.
How can you improve on that? No, we've got to try to do something so sophisticated it aggravates people. Now, you go to the restroom, you wash your hands, and you have to contort yourself
Yes.
to find the water that comes on.
The sensor. You're looking
Well, Ann and I,
You haven't know.
we
We're
regularly,
agreement.
we're getting older, so we regularly have to meet in there, and we're washing our hands, and
Let me just clarify. We don't meet in there.
well, no,
We cross paths.
That is a good clarification. We cross paths because we have to
Yeah.
do as all humans do.
Everyone gets it.
Yeah,
We're
I
old.
don't have to explain anything, but you put your hands under there, and then you have to wave them around, and find the right.
I'm telling you who did this.
Who did
I'm
this?
telling you this. China. China. So they produce these sensor-driven
Sensor-driven
faucets.
devils is what they are.
And what's weird is that on two separate floors here, we have second floor, first floor, the sensors are in different places. So downstairs, the sensors are closer to the sink. Upstairs,
Fred, it's not funny.
they're
I
at
don't
the top.
appreciate.
No.
I don't appreciate.
No,
This is
I'm
a matter
sharing your
that's-
frustration.
Okay.
And you have to wave your hands to try to turn it on. Then you can turn it on a little bit,
Yes.
and then it shuts off.
Yes.
And now you got to find it
Yes.
again. No, I'm with you.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
growing up, I had the little handle.
Yeah.
All right.
The handle.
Yes. You wash your hands and you just use your wrist to shut it off.
That's what I'm talking
and
about.
and you go. And I'll tell you something else.
Tell me something else.
Getting the paper towels to dispense
Yeah.
using a sensor.
That also
Yes.
will cause you to lose your religion.
Preach it, brother.
Huh? I'm telling you, I've had to fight bad words sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Am I right? Am I the only
Listen,
one?
No, it is frustrating. Just because there is an advancement in technology
No,
doesn't mean it's an improvement.
That is
No.
progressive for progressive's sake.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
not for progressive
No.
for the help of others.
And I think it's your brother
Yes, it is.
who supervised the building here
It was.
of our new building, and he said go with the
Sensors.
He
went
go with the
go with the
sensors
sensors.
over the handles.
Oh, these young people.
If there was one thing I could change about that, I wasn't paying attention that day when he showed me the architectural plans. I didn't say, well, I should have said what kind of faucet handles we're going to have.
Yeah.
No, we're going with sensors.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm
sorry I had to vent that.
And speaking of preaching it,
we got a guest.
We got a guest.
We got a preacher.
Yes. All right, so maybe we need a moment of silence, separation between the carnal and the holy, right here.
Well, Dr. Jeffress can handle anything.
Okay.
He can handle this transition.
All right. Dr. Robert Jeffress is the pastor of the First Baptist Church in Dallas, and he is the host of a long-standing radio show on American Family Radio and other stations called Pathway to Victory. It's a Bible teaching program, obviously, daily, Monday through Friday here on AFR at 6 a.m. Central Time. And he joins us now. Good morning, Robert. How you doing, my friend?
Great, Tim. Good to be with you guys again.
Hey, by the way, has it been 2 years now since the old sanctuary burnt?
No, it's just been 7 months. It seems like
wow.
a year.
I know. I'm trying to. I can't. Time is hard to judge now. So give us an update on that. For those who don't know, that was the historic sanctuary that dated back, over 100 years or so.
Yeah, about 136 years we worshiped in it. 4 presidents came to worship there over history. Billy Graham, who was a member of our church, preached from that pulpit and sanctuary many times. I was baptized there. And the night of July 19th, it went up in flames in a 4-alarm fire. 130 firefighters tried to push back against it. We lost the historic sanctuary, did about $140 million worth of damage. And but the good news is we're in the stage to rebuild that historic sanctuary, and the church is doing great. We really appreciate all the prayers of our friends. I got to see President Trump last week in the Oval Office. The first thing he asked me was, how's the church doing after the fire? So he's been a real supporter throughout it as well.
Did the fire department ever determine what caused the fire?
No, it was undisclosed or undetermined.
Okay.
They don't think it was arson. It was an old building with a lot of old wires in it.
Yeah, that happens.
Sure.
That happens. Okay, you got a brand new book out called Jesus Revealed in the End Times. The subtitle is Hope for Today from the One Who Holds Our Future. Give us an overview of the book, and then I know Fred has a question or two here.
Yeah, Tim, I've preached on Bible prophecy for decades, written about it. I don't think you can be a faithful preacher of Scripture and not talk about the return of Jesus Christ. It's the theme of the Old and the New Testaments. Jesus is coming back again. But every time I've ever taught on it, I've done so in terms of events, the rapture, the tribulation, the millennium, the second coming, and so forth. But this book is a unique approach to Bible prophecy. It looks at prophecy through the lens of Jesus. You know, Bible prophecy, when you think about it, is not so much about what is coming, it's about who is coming. Jesus is coming. And so many Christians, Tim, get just scared spitless over the idea of Jesus coming back and Bible prophecy, and they're scared to death. This is great news for everybody who knows Christ as Savior. And so this is a positive look at the end times. Now, if you're not a believer, you have every reason to be scared about the end. It doesn't turn out well for you. But if you know Christ, it's something to be hopeful about. And that's the theme of the book, Jesus Revealed in the End Times.
Pastor Jeffress, Fred here. Why are some pastors reluctant to deal with Bible prophecy? What do they have against that?
Well, I think it's two things. I think, first of all, some of them are just lazy. I mean, it takes some study to study the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation. People say, well, God never meant for us to understand. Well, if he didn't mean for us to understand it, why is the book of Revelation the only book of the Bible that has a special blessing attached to those who read and obey its words? I think some are just lazy, but I think also some are misled. They think there's no relevance about Jesus' future coming to today. And yet, in 2 Peter 3, the apostle said, talking about the end of the world, seeing all these things are to be burned up in this way, what sort of people ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming day of the Lord? If Jesus is really coming back, if he's coming back to judge the wicked and reward the righteous, then that ought to affect how I live my life today.
Pastor Jeffress, do you think, this is Ed, by the way, do you think that some pastors steer away from this topic? That one of the reasons might be that, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but there does seem to be a hesitancy amongst a lot of pastors to speak too exclusively about Christianity, about Jesus being the only way to heaven. They get a lot of blowback, and you can't talk about the end times and the return of Christ and, you know, all the things that are going to happen at the end. You can't talk about that without making the claim that Jesus, he is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Do you think that could be some of the hesitancy as well?
Oh, absolutely. You know, a lot of people picture Jesus as this little wimpy rabbi who walked around the countryside saying nice things to people. I mean, it's true. Jesus in his first coming came to be the Savior of the world. But the next time he's coming as judge of the world. That's what we talk about in Jesus Revealed in the End Times. At the second coming, we see the fullness of his role, including that as the judge. And Revelation 20 is very clear. If any person's name is not found written in the book of life, he's cast into the lake of fire and tormented day and night forever and ever. I have to tell you an interesting story. I'm preparing something right now for the Billy Graham Library. I was doing some research and I found this interesting anecdote. Back in January of 1961, a few days before Kennedy was inaugurated as president, he invited Billy Graham to come to Florida to play golf with him. And they were driving back from the golf game. Kennedy was driving in a white Lincoln convertible. He pulls the car off to the side, turns the engine off, looks at Billy Graham and says, "Billy, do you believe Jesus is coming back to earth one day?" And Billy Graham said, "Yes, sir, I do." And then Kennedy asked, "Well, if that's true, why do I hear so little about it today?" And I think the message we need to be making sure everybody hears today is Jesus is coming back, and we need to be ready for that. And again, that's a message of hope and great assurance for believers. It's a cause for terror for unbelievers.
Pastor Jeffress, Fred again. We saw an image, a picture of you in the Oval Office praying with another group of Christians with President Trump. Talk a little bit about that experience. And my understanding is that he wanted you folks, you were meeting at another place there in the White House. He wanted you to come in and pray for him. Is that how that went down?
It is, and it's happened a number of times. About 15 of us were there, faith leaders, to have a listening session, what they call it, at the White House, where they probe us about what issues, Christian issues, were at the forefront of our thinking and concern. And so we were having that discussion. The president was aware of it. I had texted the president earlier in the week to tell him we were going to be there. And with everything he had going on, he wanted to take time to pray, and it wasn't a quick in and out. We spent about 30 minutes with him, and they asked me to lead off in prayer and lead off with some comments. And on behalf of the group, I thank the president, first of all, for having the courage to push back against these leftist judges that are trying to keep him from exercising not only his constitutional, but his biblical mandate to protect our citizens from evildoers. And then I thank him for the prominence that he was giving faith in his new administration. He has so many things planned to highlight faith. And I just thanked him for having the courage to stand up and to say without apology that America was founded on a Judeo-Christian faith, and that we as a country are blessed by God if we honor God. And so then I started in prayer, and several others prayed. It was a great time, and he seemed to appreciate it greatly.
We're talking to Dr. Robert Jeffress. Dr. Jeffress is the senior pastor there at First Baptist Church, Dallas, and author of the new book, Jesus Revealed in the End Times. Hope for Today from the one who holds our future. The book is available now, and get it wherever you buy your books from. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it very much. Keep up the good work.
Great to be with you guys. We really appreciate AFR.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
I meant to, we didn't have time, but I meant to ask him where he comes down on the whole faucet thing.
Handle faucet?
Yeah.
Oh, the handle
Sensor versus handles.
It's probably in the prophecy somewhere, right?
No, listen, I'm not, it's a very serious subject that he's writing about. And so, folks, we do encourage you to get a copy of the book, Jesus Revealed in the End Times by Dr. Robert Jeffress, well known to our listeners. And I do agree with him. This is a subject that should be preached about more. I'm happy to say our pastor, Scooter Noland, he doesn't hold back on any subject. He's very, very bold and preaches the truth. And we need
more of that.
Pulpits aflame in this day and age with preachers who will preach the truth and not be afraid of blowback.
Why wouldn't you want to know the end of the story? We read books. We don't stop halfway through.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the return of Jesus Christ is how it all wraps up.
Yes.
And there are consequences.